Hello and welcome back. My name is Christina Nolan and this is Public Speaking 101. When most people hear of 3D printing, they think of phone cases or little gadgets, not full-size homes. But imagine that same technology used to build a home for someone in need. Tonight I want to show you how 3D printed homes can be the most compassionate, most efficient ways to tackle homelessness. Because, why, you ask? It's affordable, it's faster, and it's better for the environment overall when you compare it to a traditionally built home. Now, to prepare for tonight, I reviewed data from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's HUD for short. The National Low Income Housing Coalition and several nonprofit organizations using 3D printers to build for families in need right now as we speak. Here's where we're going. First, we're going to look at the problem. Then we're going to look at the causes. And finally, we're going to see how 3D print homes can change lives. Homelessness continues to rise. According to the United States Department of Urban Development, in 2023, they reported that over 650,000 people experience homelessness in any given night. That's the highest it's been in years. And it's not just lacking a shelter, it's the loss of stability, safety, and dignity. In 2022, the National Institute of Health found that people without stable housing are at higher risk for depression, addiction, and chronic illnesses. And then, to make matters even worse, when they try to rebuild their lives, they face rejection. In 2023, Psychology Today reported that more than half of the people who experience homelessness are denied based off of how they look or where they live. The problem is real, but to fix it, we need to understand what's causing it. Well, first, let's look at the housing. In 2024, the National Low Income Housing Coalition found that for every 100 low income renters, there were only 33 homes available. Second, wages aren't keeping up. The United States Bureau of Labor and Statistics reports that rent prices have jumped up a whole 30% since 2020, while wages have only grown a measly 12%. That gap pushes people towards eviction and homeless shelters. Third, we have mental health and job stability. In 2023, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration said about one-third of homeless adults suffer from mental illnesses, making it even harder for them to hold a job and qualify for housing programs. So, together, when we think about this, you have high rent, you have low wages, and mental health struggles, all of that wrapped in together, it just keeps people in a continuous cycle that's harder and harder to break. But there is one solution that's gaining momentum: 3D printed homes. According to the Habitat for Humanity in 2022, this type of construction, they say, can cut waste by nearly 30% and cut labor costs by half. That's a lot. And even more impressive, these homes are built layer by layer using large scale printers, often with concrete or strong material other strong material. Some homes can even be printed in as little as 24 to 48 hours. Can you believe that? Think about that. Whole neighborhoods can be raised in weeks instead of months or years. Now, one of the most inspiring stories that comes out of this is from Austin, Texas, where a nonprofit group called ICON partnered together with another nonprofit organization called Community First. And together they built a neighborhood, an entire community, if you will, for the unhoused, among which was a man named Tim Shea. He's 70 years old. He's been on the streets for over a decade, and this was his first time feeling safe in years. He said he cried his first night he was in his home only because he hasn't felt safe in years. And I know. This story right here, it proves that technology, guided by compassion, is what gives people a fresh start. And I know, critics will say 3D printed homes, 3D printed homes are too futuristic or they're too expensive. But when you're thinking about cost, think about this for a second. It costs anywhere from ten to $50,000 to build a 3D printed home, whereas it is over $150,000 for a traditionally built home. And then on top of that, when we're comparing costs, the cost of emergency Medicare, emergency shelter, and jail time for the unhoused is way more. The choice is obvious. In 2023 magazine, in 2023, Forbes magazine reported that these homes can reduce the cost of construction by 20 to 40%. Now, just imagine what that could mean for cities, what that could mean for Inglewood, Compton, or even Long Beach. Affordable homes built faster, with less waste, and for a fraction of the cost. Now, on a macro level, 3D printed homes are great. But for those of us that want to help financially, but we want to help, but we don't have it financially, we can always donate our time to nonprofit organizations like PATH and Back on My Feet, which are really great programs if you want to help out with the homeless. So let's bring it on home. 3D printed homes are not just science fiction. They're real, they're a practical solution, and people are already living in them right now. It's great innovation for humanity. Tonight we looked at the problem, which is homelessness, and its impact. We explored the causes, rising rent, low wages, and mental health struggles. And we learned of the solution that has already changing lives. That's 3D printed homes. Now picture this. The same streets that were once lined with tents are now rows of clean, modern 3D printed homes. People like Tim Shea are sitting on their front porch sipping tea while children are playing in the background, and that replaces the sounds of loud noise and sirens from traffic. Just imagine that. We have the technology, we have the resources, and we have the heart to make the vision real, one person and one fresh start at a time. I'm Christina Nolan, and this is Public Speaking 101.